Jerusalem is a key location in biblical prophecies about the end of times. One of these prophecies predicts a war in Israel and an attack on Jerusalem by various nations. With the ongoing conflict between Israel and Hamas, people are wondering if this could be a sign of the Messiah's return. Is this moment finally here? Will these prophecies come true? Or could an unexpected peace emerge? Let's explore the evidence as the world watches with great anticipation. In the annals of history, few lands have been as revered and contested as the narrow strip of territory known today as Israel. This land, cradled by the ancient waters of the Jordan River and the Mediterranean Sea, has been the stage for some of the most pivotal events in human history. But why does this small piece of the earth command such profound significance? The answer lies not in the soil itself, but in the pages of the most widely read book in human history, the Bible. The Bible, a tome of spiritual guidance for billions, refers to Israel as God's chosen land. Starting with the first book in the biblical canon, Genesis introduces us to a covenant, a divine promise that sets Israel apart. In Genesis 12:1-3, we read of God's call to Abraham, "Go from your country, your people, and your father's household to the land I will show you." This land, promised to Abraham and his descendants, was not just any land, but a land that would be the canvas for God's unfolding plan for humanity. With the Israel-Palestine conflict intensifying, could we be witnessing the fulfillment of biblical prophecies, and what do they reveal about the future of Israel? Stay tuned as we dive into the details. But before that, we need to understand why Israel was specifically chosen by God for Abraham's lineage. The scriptures do not detail the rationale behind this selection, but they do emphasize the unique relationship between this land and the divine narrative. Israel, according to the biblical account, is not just a homeland for the Jewish people, it is a land with a destiny intertwined with the very purpose of creation. It is a land where prophets walked, where kings ruled, and where the echoes of ancient promises still resonate in the hills and valleys. The spiritual significance of Israel is further underscored by the events described in the biblical narratives. It is the birthplace of the patriarchs Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob. It is the crucible of the Israelite nation, forged through the trials of slavery in Egypt and the subsequent Exodus. It is the land where David shepherded his flocks before ascending to the throne, and where Solomon built a temple that became the heart of Jewish worship. But perhaps the most compelling aspect of Israel's spiritual significance is its prophetic dimension. The Bible is replete with prophecies concerning Israel, prophecies that speak of exile and return, of desolation and restoration. These prophecies are not just ancient texts. For many, they are living words with the power to inspire, to guide, and indeed, to terrify. Why terrify? Because the prophecies concerning Israel often speak of tumultuous events, wars, upheavals, and divine judgments. They speak of a land that stands at the crossroads of time, where the future of the world is often seen to be decided. The prophets of old spoke of a day when nations would gather against Israel, when the very earth would shake and the skies would darken. These are not mere allegories, but prophecies that many believe are unfolding before our very eyes. The narrative of Israel's prophetic timeline is punctuated by a theme of dispersion and return, a cycle of exile and homecoming that has marked the Jewish experience throughout history. The Hebrew Bible, or Tanakh, contains numerous prophecies that foretell the return of the Jewish people to their ancestral homeland. Among these, the prophecies of Ezekiel and Isaiah stand out for their vivid imagery and their perceived fulfillment in modern times. Ezekiel 36:24 states, "For I will take you out of the nations, I will gather you from all the countries and bring you back into your own land." This verse encapsulates a promise of restoration, a divine assurance that the scattered children of Israel will one day be reassembled from the far corners of the earth. But how could such a grandiose prediction come to pass? How could a people dispersed across the globe, with their national identity seemingly diluted by time and distance, be reconstituted as a nation? Isaiah 11:11-12 further expands on this theme, declaring, "In that day the Lord will reach out his hand a second time to reclaim the surviving remnant of his people. He will assemble the scattered people of Judah from the four quarters of the earth." The imagery here is potent, evoking a sense of divine intervention that transcends human boundaries and political orders. But what could this second time mean? And how would it manifest in a world that had seen the Jewish people dispersed for centuries? The answer to these questions began to unfold in a way that few could have anticipated. In the aftermath of the Second World War, a war that brought untold suffering to the Jewish people and culminated in the horrors of the Holocaust, a seismic shift occurred. On May 14, 1948, the establishment of the State of Israel was proclaimed by David Ben-Gurion, echoing the ancient prophecies in a declaration that reverberated around the world. But was this the fulfillment of Ezekiel's and Isaiah's words? Could the founding of a modern state be equated with the prophetic vision of return? What if a modern political event, the declaration of a new state, was actually a millennia-old prophecy coming to fruition? The establishment of the State of Israel in 1948 is not merely a political milestone. For many, it represents a direct link to the prophetic traditions of the Bible. It is seen as a moment where prophecy and history intersect, where the ancient words of the prophets seem to leap off the parchment and into the realm of reality. The creation of the State of Israel was not without its challenges. The nascent country faced immediate hostility from neighboring states, and the broader geopolitical landscape was fraught with tension. Yet despite these challenges, the fledgling state not only survived, but began to thrive. The years following 1948 saw waves of Jewish immigrants making their way to Israel, fulfilling, in the eyes of many, the prophetic vision of the gathering of the exiles. But what if the return of the Jewish people to Israel is a harbinger of future events foretold in Scripture? What if the very act of gathering is not the conclusion but the beginning of a new chapter in the prophetic narrative? This act of return is often interpreted as a precursor to more profound events, a setup for a prophetic drama that involves the entire world. In the midst of political turmoil and existential threats, Israel embarked on a journey that would not only define its character, but also challenge the limits of what was considered possible in the realm of agriculture. The land, described by many upon their arrival as barren and inhospitable, began to undergo a transformation that some would call miraculous. Consider the prophecy of Zechariah 8:12, which states, "For the seed shall be prosperous, the vine shall give her fruit, and the ground shall give her increase, and the heavens shall give their dew, and I will cause the remnant of this people to possess all these things." Here, the prophet speaks of a time of agricultural abundance that seems incongruous with the arid and challenging conditions of the Middle Eastern landscape. Yet, in the decades following the establishment of the State of Israel, the country has become synonymous with agricultural innovation and success. But how can a land, primarily desert, yield such abundance? The country's ability to make the desert bloom is often cited as a fulfillment of biblical prophecy. The flourishing of vineyards, the abundance of crops, and the innovation that drives Israel's agricultural sector are often viewed through the lens of prophecy, as if the land itself is responding to a divine command to yield its fruit and reveal its potential. Yet, amidst this narrative of growth and prosperity, there lies a city that has been at the heart of biblical prophecy and international contention for millennia: Jerusalem. A city revered by billions around the world as the epicenter of their faiths, Jerusalem stands as a testament to the enduring legacy of ancient prophecies. But why does Jerusalem remain such a contested and emotive subject in the annals of history and the corridors of power today? The ancient prophet Zechariah spoke of a time when Jerusalem would become a cup of trembling to all the surrounding peoples and a burdensome stone for all nations. This vivid imagery conjures a sense of profound unrest, suggesting that the city would be at the heart of international strife and a source of great burden to any who dare to involve themselves with it. But what does this mean in the modern context? Could these ancient words be reflective of the geopolitical quagmire that Jerusalem represents in contemporary international relations? The city of Jerusalem is unique in that it is claimed as a capital by two peoples, Israelis and Palestinians, and is central to the religious narratives of Judaism, Christianity, and Islam. The international community has long grappled with the status of Jerusalem, with many nations historically refraining from recognizing it as Israel's capital, instead maintaining their embassies in Tel Aviv. However, recent shifts in diplomatic stances have seen some countries move their embassies to Jerusalem, acknowledging it as the capital of Israel, which has led to international debate and widespread protest in some quarters. But why does this matter? The answer may lie in the fact that Jerusalem is not just a city of the past, but a city of prophecy. The decision to recognize Jerusalem as the capital of Israel is seen by some as a fulfillment of biblical prophecy, a step towards the realization of a divine plan. But this perspective is not without its controversies. For many Palestinians and their supporters, such moves are seen as a unilateral imposition on the future of a city whose fate they believe should be decided through negotiation, not prophetic destiny. The prophecy of Jerusalem as a burdensome stone is particularly intriguing when one considers the city's tumultuous history. Jerusalem has been destroyed twice, besieged 23 times, attacked 52 times, and captured and recaptured 44 times. This history of conflict and suffering seems to echo the prophecy's suggestion that the city would be a source of trouble and sorrow for the world. Even the city's current status is a microcosm of the broader Israeli-Palestinian conflict, reflecting the deep divisions and intractable positions that have characterized the region for decades. The international community remains divided, with some nations advocating for a two-state solution with Jerusalem as the shared capital, while others support Israel's claim to the entire city. But for those who view the city through the lens of biblical prophecy, the events unfolding in and around Jerusalem are just part of a divine script, a series of events that are leading to a predetermined conclusion. In the heart of this ancient city lies the Temple Mount, a site of immeasurable spiritual significance. It is here that biblical prophecy intersects with the deepest religious convictions of Judaism and Christianity. The significance of this site cannot be overstated. It is the epicenter of faith, the spiritual heart of the world for many believers. Ezekiel 37:26-28 offers a vision of a future where a temple stands as a sign of a covenant of peace. Moreover, I will make a covenant of peace with them. It shall be an everlasting covenant with them, and I will place them and multiply them, and will set my sanctuary in the midst of them forevermore. My tabernacle also shall be with them. Yea, I will be their God, and they shall be my people. And the heathen shall know that I, the Lord, do sanctify Israel, when my sanctuary shall be in the midst of them forevermore. This passage speaks of a time when God's presence will dwell permanently among the people, a time of restoration and peace. Could it be that the enduring conflicts over Jerusalem are the birth pangs of a new era, as some interpret the prophecies to suggest? And what if the prophecies pointing to a new temple and a new covenant are not just ancient texts, but a blueprint for what is yet to come? The Temple Mount continues to be a flashpoint in the Israeli-Palestinian conflict, with both sides claiming sovereignty over the site. For Jews, the Temple Mount is the holiest place in Judaism, the site where Abraham was said to have prepared to sacrifice Isaac and where the two Jewish temples once stood. For Christians, it is a place steeped in the memory of Jesus, who preached and taught in the Second Temple. The Temple Mount is also significant in Islam, where it is known as the Haram al-Sharif and is the location of the Al-Aqsa Mosque and the Dome of the Rock, from where Muslims believe the Prophet Muhammad ascended to heaven. The question then arises, how will the future of the Temple Mount unfold? Will it remain a source of strife, or will it transform into a symbol of coexistence? The prophecies suggest a time of profound change, a time when the Temple Mount will be central to the fulfillment of God's promises. The spiritual significance of Jerusalem and the Temple Mount cannot be separated from the city's political realities. The eyes of the world remain fixed on this city, not only because of its strategic importance, but also because of its religious destiny. The prophecies speak of a time when God will set his sanctuary in the midst of them forevermore. This promise of an everlasting covenant and a permanent divine presence in Jerusalem fuels the hopes and fears of many. Turning our gaze to the future, another prophecy looms large over Jerusalem, the vision of the third temple. The prophet Ezekiel devoted several chapters to a detailed description of a temple yet to be built, a vision that has stirred the hearts of many who long to see this prophetic edifice realized. For those who advocate for the temple's reconstruction, it is not merely about rebuilding a structure, but about restoring a spiritual center for the world, a place where, according to Ezekiel's vision, the glory of God would dwell among humanity. However, the path to realizing this vision is fraught with controversy. The Temple Mount, revered as a holy site by Jews, Christians, and Muslims alike, is currently home to the Dome of the Rock, an Islamic shrine that stands as a symbol of centuries of Muslim heritage. The prospect of altering this status quo to make way for a third temple is a source of deep tension, with potential repercussions that could ripple across the globe. Within the tapestry of these tensions lies a prophecy that has stirred both fascination and fear throughout the ages: the New Testament prophecy of the Antichrist. Described in 2 Thessalonians 2:3-4, the Antichrist is a figure of deception and lawlessness, one who opposes and exalts himself above all that is called God or that is worshipped. He is said to take his seat in the temple of God, proclaiming himself to be God. This chilling prophecy paints a picture of ultimate defilement, a sacrilegious act that would desecrate what many believe to be the most sacred space on earth. The Antichrist is often seen as the embodiment of evil, a figure who will rise to power through cunning and deceit, leading the world into a period of unprecedented turmoil. His association with the temple suggests a direct confrontation with the divine, a challenge to the very heart of religious faith. The unfolding of prophecy is not limited to the boundaries of Israel. The Bible speaks of a time when nations will gather against Israel, a coalition of forces that will come together in a climactic confrontation. Ezekiel 38:39 describes a confederation of nations that will rise up against Israel, led by figures known as Gog and Magog. This apocalyptic alliance is described in terms that evoke a sense of overwhelming odds and a conflict of epic proportions. As we observe the shifting geopolitical landscape with its complex web of alliances and conflicts, one cannot help but wonder if we are witnessing the prelude to this prophesied confrontation. Currently, there's a complex array of relationships involving Israel, those who staunchly support the nation, those who vehemently oppose it, and a multitude of others who vacillate between these positions. The Middle East is a region in flux, with shifting power dynamics and unpredictable alliances. Could these be the rumblings of the Ezekiel prophecy, the early tremors before the prophesied earthquake of nations? In the midst of these global tensions, there is another prophecy that speaks of a time of unparalleled distress for the nation of Israel, known as Jacob's trouble. This period of tribulation is characterized by suffering and hardship, a time when the very survival of the nation will be at stake. Observers of current events might point to the various challenges faced by Israel, from security threats to internal divisions, as potential precursors to this prophesied period. But is it accurate to interpret contemporary events as the beginnings of Jacob's trouble? Or are we seeing the normal ebb and flow of a nation's struggles? At the heart of the eschatological narrative within both Jewish and Christian traditions lies the enigmatic figure of the Messiah, a central character in the unfolding drama of the end times. The Jewish perspective anticipates the coming of a Messiah who is a human leader, a descendant of King David, poised to rebuild the Holy Temple in Jerusalem, gather the Jewish exiles, usher in an era of peace, and bring about a universal recognition of the God of Israel. In contrast, the Christian understanding of the Messiah is intricately linked to the person of Jesus Christ, who is believed to have fulfilled the messianic prophecies through his life, death, and resurrection. Christians await his second coming, which they believe will herald the final judgment and the establishment of God's kingdom on earth. The role of the Messiah in Christian eschatology is thus both a historical fulfillment and a future promise. But what happens when these two perspectives converge on the topic of the Third Temple? For many Jews, the construction of the Third Temple is a prerequisite for the Messiah's arrival. It is a physical and spiritual undertaking that signifies the nearing of the Messianic age. For Christians, however, the Third Temple takes on a different connotation, often seen as a sign of the end times that will precede the return of Christ. How do these divergent expectations shape the discourse on the future of Jerusalem and the Temple Mount? And what does this mean for the anticipation of peace in a region fraught with religious and political tension? Moving from the anticipation of the Messiah to the prophetic battlefields, The book of Revelation speaks of a final confrontation known as Armageddon, one of the most dramatic and terrifying prophecies in the Bible. As described in Revelation 16:16, the kings of the earth will gather for a final battle in Armageddon, or the plain of Megiddo in Israel. This battle is often interpreted as the ultimate confrontation between good and evil, a cataclysmic event that will lead to the downfall of the wicked and the triumph of righteousness. The prophecy of Armageddon is not just a tale of war and destruction, it is also a harbinger of hope, a prelude to the establishment of a new order. In the aftermath of this great battle, a new era is expected to begin, an era marked by peace, justice, and the healing of nations. This brings us to the vision of New Jerusalem, a city described in the book of Revelation as coming down from heaven, adorned like a bride for her husband. This holy city represents the hope and promise of a new beginning, a place where God will dwell with humanity and where there will be no more death, mourning, crying, or pain. Therefore, the story of New Jerusalem stands as a symbol of the fulfillment of God's promises, a testament to the belief that, in the end, God's love and justice will prevail. Thanks for watching this episode of Beyond Discovery. Don't miss the video you see on your screen. You won't believe it.